scary story. The Puppeteer, Victor Lang Maniac, serial killer. In the decaying industrial heart of Detroit, Michigan, where abandoned factories loomed like skeletons against the skyline and streetlights flickered like dying stars, a different kind of nightmare walked the night. His name was Victor Lang. To those who knew him casually, he was just Vic, the quiet puppeteer who performed at children's birthday parties and small community theaters. He had gentle hands, a soft-spoken demeanor, and an uncanny ability to make wooden marionettes dance as if they had souls. Parents loved him. Kids were mesmerized. No one ever suspected the strings he pulled went far beyond wood and wire. The first sign something was wrong came in the summer of 2022. 17-year-old runaway named Kayla Moreno was found hanging from a rusted fire escape in an abandoned warehouse on the east side. Not just hanging, suspended by thin steel cables threaded through her wrists, ankles, and the base of her skull, her body arranged in a perfect crucifixion pose. Her eyes had been replaced with glass marbles painted to look like hers. Her mouth was stitched shut with fishing line in a permanent, grotesque smile. A small wooden control bar dangled from her neck, attached by more wire as if someone had just stepped away from operating her. The coroner ruled it a bizarre suicide at first, but the autopsy revealed the truth. The cables had been inserted while she was still alive. She had been forced to dance until her body gave out. The newspapers called him the Puppeteer almost immediately. 2 months later, 19-year-old college dropout Marcus Reed was discovered in the ruins of the old Packard plant. Same signature, steel cables through major joints and vertebrae, glass eyes, stitched smile, control bar. This time the body had been positioned mid-leap, one leg extended, arms flung wide like a marionette caught in joyful motion. Forensic techs found faint traces of stage makeup on his cheeks. Rouge and eyeliner applied after death. Panic began to ripple through the city's underground scenes. The raves, the squats, the after-hours clubs. Young people started traveling in groups. Doors were triple locked. Parents begged runaways to come home. Victor kept performing. His weekend shows at the community center drew smaller crowds now, but he smiled through it. Kids need wonder, he would say, voice soft as velvet, especially in dark times. The third victim appeared in early 2023. 21-year-old street artist named Lena Voss was found in an empty lot near Eastern Market. This time the staging was more elaborate. She had been suspended 20 feet above the ground between two telephone poles, cables running to a makeshift wooden frame above. Her body twisted in a balletic arabesque, one arm gracefully extended, the other bent at an impossible angle. The control bar hung below her like a grotesque mobile. Spray paint cans dangled from her fingers, as if she were still in the act of tagging a wall. Investigators finally connected the dots. All three victims had attended one of Victor's performances in the months before their deaths. Security footage from the community center showed him speaking to each of them after shows, offering encouragement, slipping them business cards, inviting them to special private rehearsals. The task force raided his small apartment above a shuttered pawn shop. They found a hidden room behind a false wall. Inside, dozens of marionettes, some traditional wooden figures, others far more disturbing, life-sized human puppets with real hair, real teeth, real fingernails. One had Kayla Moreno's glass eyes, another wore Marcus Reed's salvaged leather jacket, a third bore Lena Voss's tattooed forearm skin stretched over a wooden frame like canvas. There were control bars mounted on the walls, each connected to thin cables that disappeared into the ceiling. When they pulled the strings, trapdoors opened above, revealing more cables, more pulleys, an entire overhead rigging system that extended through the building's rafters and out to neighboring rooftops. Victor was gone. He had slipped away hours before the raid, leaving only one new puppet behind, an unfinished one bearing the task force leader's photograph taped to its face. For 6 months, Detroit held its breath. Then the performances began again, but not at the community center. In abandoned theaters, on rooftops, inside hollowed-out factories, people started finding shows at dawn. A body strung between cranes at a construction site, dancing slowly in the wind. Another suspended above an empty freeway overpass, lit by passing headlights. A third hanging in the atrium of a derelict office building, spotlit by emergency flashers. Each time the staging grew more theatrical. Spotlights scavenged from old venues, music boxes playing eerie lullabies, fog machines filling the air with mist. The control bars were sometimes left connected to motorized winches, making the corpses sway and jerk long after death. The city formed a special unit. They called it String Theory. They tracked Victor through grainy footage, a hooded figure moving across rooftops, always at night, always alone. He was thinner now, almost skeletal, but still moved with that same fluid grace. In late 2024 they got their break. A 16-year-old girl named Sophie Tran escaped. She had been lured to a private rehearsal in an old vaudeville house downtown. Victor had drugged her tea, then spent hours positioning her limbs, threading cables through her flesh with surgical needles, while she drifted in and out of consciousness. She woke during the final act, When he tried to replace her eyes with glass, Sophie fought. She tore free of one wrist cable, stabbed him in the thigh with the shard of a broken spotlight bulb, and ran barefoot through the dark theater until she reached the street. Her description was detailed: pale skin, dark circles under the eyes, long fingers scarred from years of wire work, a soft voice that never rose above a whisper. They cornered him 3 weeks later in the catacombs beneath the Fox Theater, a labyrinth of old service tunnels and forgotten dressing rooms. Victor didn't resist. He stood center stage in an abandoned ballroom, surrounded by his creations. Dozens of puppets, human and wooden, hung from the rafters in a grotesque chandelier. Spotlights he had rigged himself cast long, dramatic shadows. When the SWAT team breached, he simply raised his hands, control bars dangling from his fingers like extensions of his own limbs. "I was giving them purpose," he said calmly as they cuffed him. "They were lost, drifting. I made them dance. I made them beautiful. Forever." In his confession, he admitted to 12 victims total, the 3 initial ones, 6 more discovered in various states of preservation throughout the city, and 3 whose bodies had never been found because he had incorporated them fully into his puppets. He was sentenced to life without parole, but the nightmares didn't end. To this day, in certain parts of Detroit, people swear they see movement in high windows after dark, faint swaying, the glint of glass eyes catching streetlight. Sometimes on quiet nights near the old theaters, you can hear the soft creak of pulleys and the distant mechanical click of wooden joints. And if you're very unlucky, you might feel the lightest tug at the back of your neck, as if invisible strings have just brushed your skin. Victor Lang may be behind bars, but some performances, it seems, never truly close. Check out my long videos with scary stories. Visit my channel and watch. Subscribe to my channel. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Recommend it to your friends. Check out my videos, friends.